I'll just keep singing it. Yeah, just keep singing. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, לה 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 לה, יה לה 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 לה, יה לה 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 לה, יה לה 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 לה, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, לה 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 לה, לה 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 לה, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, לה 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 לה, לה 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 לה, לה 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 לה, לה 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 לה, לה 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 לה, לה 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 לה, לה 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 לה, לה 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 לה
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to Temple Israel. We're so delighted that you could be here with us today as we celebrate Shabbat together and, of course, as we celebrate Andy becoming Bar Mitzvah. Now, I do just want to say there's a lot of us in this little room, and there's 2 whole rows here. So in case anyone is feeling a little squished, we will not call on you. We promise you're more than welcome to come over here. So we were talking to Andy this morning and recognized, come on up to the front. Come on down.
Come on, seriously? It's going to be good.
So we were talking to Andy and his family this morning, and they told us that for some people, this may be their first bar mitzvah. So we wanted to give you maybe a few words of introduction before we get started. Michael, anything you want to say about it?
In the event of a water landing, your seat will become a flotation device. Know that if you are in the midst of a different language, that you're still at home. Know that if things don't feel perfectly clear to you, that this is still a place in which you are welcome. And know most of all that everyone here is considered not just friend, but family as well.
When Andy leads the service this morning, he has worked very hard to prepare for this day. Folks, come on up to the front. We promise we will not bite or spit. A little bit, not so much. And so Andy will be leading our service for us. He will be leading it out of one of those blue prayer books that you grabbed when you were coming in. So we would invite you to participate with him if you can, with the English, with the Hebrew. You can always sing lie, lie, lie. Often those are the right words. So we just want you to be able to feel as comfortable as you can. This would also be a perfect time, if you do have your cell phones with you, to turn them all the way off, if you so dare, so that we can really be fully focused and present.
There's
in
a new
this
iOS
moment.
update, too. So.
There is, so it's good for your phone and for your mental health. So, without further ado, it is our honor to invite our bar mitzvah up this morning. Tamod Wolf ben Rachel v'Matityahu habar mitzvah. And Andy, I'm actually going to have you stand right here because before he gets started, we are going to place a talit, a prayer shawl, on him, and we are going to invite his brother and his cousin. So Charlie and Eleanor and Trixie, if you all will come up. We're going to have you step one step down because you're taller than them. Perfect.
more time. So comfortable. How's that?
Good.
Good? All right.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Our service begins on page 170 in the Blue Prayer Book. May my life be one link in a chain of goodness. As I say the prayers of my ancestors, help me to recall their devotion and faithfulness, their joy and suffering, which are in every word. Holiness is my heritage, may I be worthy of it. May our tradition live in me and pass from me to generations I shall never know, enriched by the truth that I have found and the good deeds I have done. So may I fulfill my task on earth and receive my blessing. And when the service ends and the prayers have ceased, help me to bring their spirit into the world in which I live. May I love God above all and my neighbor as myself and be a living witness to the truth that never changes.
So join in the singing of Ma Tovu on page 172.
Ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkelotecha Yisrael, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ani berov chastecha, avo vetecha, eshtach avicha kodshecha, ve'yiratecha. Ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkelotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkelotecha Yisrael.
Please turn to page 195 and rise for the call to worship.
We join in 195 on the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, yotzer or uvore choshech, oseh shalom uvore et hakol. Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim, aleha barachamim, ובטובו מחדש בכל יום תמיד מעשה וראשית. מה רבו מעשיך אדוני, כולם בחוכמה עשית מלאה הארץ קניינך. תתברך אדוני אלוהינו על שבח מעשה ידיך, ועל מאורי אור שעשית. יפה ארוכה, סלה. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המורות. The world is sunlight, restoring the soul, rejoicing the heart, bringing light to the eyes, more welcome than gold, a Torah from the heaven. I have no light to give the morning. My Torah, my special human gift, is words. As I bring my words forth from silence, welcome them, you who redeems the sun from darkness. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer Hamorot. We join in singing the Shema at the top of page 200. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Please be seated. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect. The song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children's and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
So we join in the singing of Mi Chamocha.
Baruch
Please turn to page 205 and rise for tefillah. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufia ki tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Veloheinu, Velohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Velohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei hakol, V'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, U'mevi geula livnei v'nehem, Leman shemo b'ahava, Melech ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham v'Ezras Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh kol atarav lechoshia, Mechalkel hayim bechesed, Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha b'gvurot, Umido melach, Melech memit umechayem, Ematzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Machayeh hakol. You are the open door that beckons me in. Peeking around the doorframe, I begin to enter into your glory. You move me forward, O Eternal, to step beyond self-made boundaries. Lift my foot over the threshold that I might abide with you. In the house of the Eternal, I found my questions. Waiting to be posed, they filled me with wonder. Sit with me, Eternal Teacher, and encourage my seeking. As I fill my hours with your mitzvot, so shall I be filled. Send me through your door, stretching up to honor your name, sharing out this wonder, enriching myself in the giving.
And we join in Kedusha on page 208.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, הכתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך הארץ, כבודו. אדיר, אדירנו אדוני, אדוננו מאדיר, שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ורחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גדלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. We'll turn now to page 216 and offer a prayer for peace, for our community, for our country, for our world, with the words of Sim Shalom.
Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha. Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom. Oh, say shalom, bimromav, uyase shalom, aleinu, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imeru, amen. Oh, say shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imeru, amen. Oh, say shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imeru, amen. Oh, say shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imeru, amen.
I'm sure that was all very clear to you. Before I begin to explain, I just want to say, when I was growing up, there was a young man who was in a band. His name was Billy, and people who were stuck in the back row, often he would save a front row seat, and if they had the back row seats, and it was very upsetting or kind of a bummer, but they were excited and they were big fans, they came to the concert, he did leave some space in the front row. Just dropping a hint right now for anybody who feels like maybe that their seat isn't adequate enough, we do have some front row seats, just in case you are feeling down in the dumps about where you were. I wanted to make sure you know you had a place here and a space here, and that there are lots of spaces.
In the front row.
In the front row.
It's awesome up
Or
here.
two. All right. No takers. So just to give Andy a moment of pause and give you a sense of orientation, I'd like to explain a little bit about what in the world has been happening in addition to the singing and the excitement and the prayers, give you a sense of direction that we're going in, a sense of really specific purpose as to about what's going to happen next and where we will conclude. So what Andy has done is he has spent a very long time studying the Hebrew language, which in and of itself is a civilization. And so it's a very special and holy and sacred thing that he's coming up here and that he's chosen to study this language and is choosing to lead the service in Hebrew. And then in addition to that, what he's done is he's learned the order of the service. And he's taking us through the history of the universe according to the sacred scriptures. And it starts in the beginning with the creation of the world. It goes through the history of the matriarchs and the patriarchs. It takes us through our experience of slavery and oppression in Egypt. It has taken us through the Red Sea. And now Andy is in the footsteps of Moses. He's actually going to put Moses' sandals on right now, virtually. And he's going to have led us across the desert to a place of revelation, Mount Sinai. And I realize that it's only about a step and a half, but this place right here is Mount Sinai right now. And Andy is going to go up and he's going to receive the Torah, and he's going to receive revelation. He's going to come down the mountain and speak to all of us and tell us in a teaching what he thinks the Torah means to him and should mean to all of us in this day at this time.
We have a few traditions that we do when we have the sacred reading of the Torah, of our sacred scriptures. The first is that we recognize that Andy did not receive this teaching alone or even from his teachers and his rabbis, that really this is a tradition that is passed on through the generations. And so symbolically, we are going to pass the Torah scroll through the generations of his family until it rests safely in his arms. But as Rabbi Michael said, he is also today in the footsteps of Moses. And we know that what Moses did was he brought the Torah to the people. So after he receives it from his family, he is going to bring the Torah to you. What that means is carrying this Torah, which by the way is kind of heavy, so he will be doing it quickly. He is going to walk among the congregation, and if you'd like, you are more than welcome to reach out with your hand or with your prayer book and touch the Torah. You can even gently touch our bar mitzvah if you want, but he's going to weave his way around the congregation, so if you wish to reach out and touch the Torah, you have the opportunity to do so. But again, it's heavy, so he's going to go kind of quick. So, we would invite you now, if you will, to please rise, and we're going to take our Torah from the ark. And on 246, we join in the singing of Ki Mitzion. Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah. Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah. U'davar Adonai Mirushalayim. Flip the page. Baruch Shenatan Torah
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Shoftim v'shoterim titen lecha b'kol she'arecha asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha lishvatecha v'shoftu et ha'am mishpat tzedek lo tate mishpat lo takir panim v'lo tikach shochad ki ha'shochad ye'aver einei chachamim V'salef divrei tzadikim tzedek tzedek tirdof leman tichayeh ve'arashta et ha'aretz asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach lo tateh lecha asher kol etzel mizbach Adonai Elohecha asher ta'aseh lach v'lo takim lecha Matzeva asher saneh Adonai Elohecha lo tizbach l'Adonai Elohecha shor v'aseh asher yihyevo mum kol davara ki toavat Adonai Elohecha hu ki matzeh v'kirbecha v'achad she'arecha asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach Isha Isha Asher Yaseh Hara B'nei Adonai Elohecha Lavor Berito Vayelech Vayavod Elohim Acherim Vayishtachu Lahem Velashemesh Ola Yareach O Lekol Tzva Hashamayim Asher Lo Tziviti Vehu Gad Lecha V'samata v'rashta hetev v'hinei emet nachon hadavar ne'esta hatoevat hazot b'Yisrael v'hotzeta et ha'ish hahu o et ha'isha hahiv asher asu et hadavar hara hazeh el sharecha et ha'ish o et ha'isha Uskatam ba'avnim v'ametu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. So it is a tradition to lift the Torah in the air so you can see what it is that Andy just read, theoretically to make sure he did it correctly. He did. It was awesome. But we're going to lift it anyway, just in case. We'll invite you to please rise for this.
Zot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai be'ad Moshe. This is the Torah which Moses placed before the people of Israel, God's word through the hand of Moses. Put it down. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratzav v'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah v'Moshe avdo v'Yisrael amo Uvivieh ha'emet v'tzedek. Anochi, Anochi, hu menachem mi'at v'tirei ve'enosh yamut umi ben adam chatzir yinatem. V'tishkach Adonai Yosecha noten shemayim v'yosed aretz v'tefachid tamid kol hayom mipnei chamat hamitzik ka'asher konen lahashchit v'ayeh chamat hamitzik mihartzoeh lehipateach velo yamut lashachat velo yachsar lachemo v'anochi Adonai Elohecha roga hayom vayahemu galav Adonai tevot shemo va'asim devarai beficha uv'sel yadi kisiticha linto hashamayim v'lisod aretz v'lemor letzion amiata. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam tzur kol ha'olamim tzadik b'kol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh hamdaber umkayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'neviim ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnucha lechavod ultifaret al ha'kol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvarchim otach yitbarach shimcha befi kol chai tamid leolam va'ed baruch atah Adonai mechadesh ha'shabbat amen. Hello, thank you for coming to my bar mitzvah. I'm so glad you could be here. Before I start my speech, I have a few thank yous to make. First, there's my wonderful mom and dad, who've done so much for me I could never sum it all up in one sentence. I also need to thank my brother, Charlie. The pandemic would have been really boring without you. Of course, I have to give a huge thank you to my tutor, Maura Adele, who taught me how to chant my Torah and Haftorah portion, along with loads of other prayers, and worked through obstacles from snow days to sicknesses. And there's Rabbi Amy and Rabbi Michael. Thank you so much for discussing my Torah portion with me, helping me understand it, and making it interesting. I did not expect my first conversation with you guys to be about laws against sorcery. And I want to say hi to my cousins Eleanor and Trixie, my Aunt Jill and Uncle Jeff, my grandparents Momo, Baba, Nana, and Papa, and my family visiting from California, Uncle Rick and Cousin Sam. I'm so glad all of you could make it. My Torah portion, Shoftim, or magistrates, is a part of Moses' last speech. Magistrates are described as judges and chieftains who would govern the tribes. Moses knew he would die before he reached the Promised Land, and he was trying to impart all of his knowledge to his people. Shoftim is about the important laws that the Jews would need to know as they started a civilization. Moses talks about appointing officials and judging fairly. He describes rules for kings and priests to follow and how to distinguish a false prophet from a real one. Moses tells the Israelites how to deal with accidental homicide, fearful soldiers, unsolved murders, and war. Pursuing justice is the main idea of this speech. The Torah even says, Tzedek tzedek tirdof, or justice, justice shall you pursue. Moses thought that it was important that the Israelites know the correct way to pursue justice in their society, but there is no correct way to pursue justice. It's been thousands of years since the Torah was written, and our idea of justice has changed greatly. In the Torah, justice was very harsh and sometimes a bit absurd. For example, if you were to find a murder victim lying out in the open, and you couldn't tell who did it, you were supposed to alert the authorities, who who would measure the distance to the nearest village. Then, they would take a female cow from that village. After they acquired the cow, they would then proceed to break its neck over a river and wash their hands over the dead body. I couldn't make this up if I tried. But something you need to notice is that this is a situation that is out of these ancient people's control. There was no way to find the murderer and punish them, and the victim couldn't be brought back to life because necromancy was illegal. And yes, I'm not making that up either. There were laws against sorcery, which is the use of dark magic, necromancy, which is bringing back the dead, and augury and soothsaying, which are both forms of fortune telling. And if you don't have a good idea of what my Torah portion is about yet, here's some more. The punishment for nearly every crime was death, although sometimes the Torah got really specific and demanded a certain method of death. There were some exceptions, like accidental homicide, for which the punishment was exile. In other words, justice back then was pretty different from what justice would look like today. But Shoftim isn't just a bunch of outdated laws. Ancient documents like the Torah give us many fundamental codes, including rules like the idea that people can only be punished on the testimony of multiple witnesses. But even today, the idea of justice can differ greatly between people. For example, a police officer might think that pursuing justice is making sure everyone follows the law, while a doctor might think that pursuing justice is keeping people safe from disease. These are two totally different ideas, but they are both ways of pursuing justice. One way that I pursue justice is by going to a place called the Diaper Bank on weekends, where volunteers wrap diapers to be given to people in need. 1 in 3 families struggle to buy diapers, and if a baby's diaper isn't clean, it can lead to the baby getting sick and upset. Upset babies are at a higher risk of child abuse, and parents without enough diapers are far more likely to experience depression. And to make matters worse, there's no official government aid for diapers. So in the end, it doesn't really matter how you're pursuing justice. It only matters that you're making the world a tiny bit better, and if everyone does their part, there's so much that can happen.
Andy, you paid rapt attention during your baby naming, seemingly hanging on to the rabbi's every word. During the blessings, you were so wide-eyed and so engrossed, it looked like as a newborn you were gonna get up and speak and say, Hineni, here I am. You knew, even at that young age, how important Judaism would be in your life. Andy, may Judaism always ground you and light your way. At your baby naming, we gave you the Hebrew name Wolf after your great-grandfather Walter. Walter was president of his synagogue in New London, Connecticut, on the board of The Day, his local newspaper, and has a whole auditorium named after him for all the service he did at the local hospital. You continue his legacy by giving back to your community in the same way that he did. Throughout the pandemic, you have been making desserts for the unhoused through a program called Room at the Inn. And this is a program that gives hot meals to homeless families. We have enjoyed taste testing your many desserts, including fudge and brownies and lots of batches of cookies. And speaking of cookies, we are so proud of you for baking 72 cookies as thank you gifts for friends who donated diapers and money to the St. Louis Area Diaper Bank for your diaper drive. You are an expert diaper wrapper after volunteering at the bank, and I can literally say you're a machine because after all the hours volunteering there, we timed you and you're faster than the machine that they have there at wrapping the diapers. Andy, may you always continue to perform and to inspire the work of Tikkun Olam, repair of the world. We love watching your love of Judaism. You've shared with your classmates our tradition of eating chocolate frogs at the Passover Seder, and you've brought home homemade challah covers and Shabbat candles that we've incorporated into our own rituals. And when you started learning Hebrew in 2nd grade, you had fun telling us sentences in Hebrewish, and you engaged us in games of tic-tac-toe with Hebrew words. Andy, may you continue to find joy in learning and in teaching others. Your relationship with Charlie is so beautiful to watch. We always wanted you to be best friends in addition to brothers, and it's been such a joy to watch that dream become a reality. You two can crack each other up like no other and can spend countless hours together having fun with no games, no toys, no electronics, just the two of you and your imaginations. Andy, may you always cherish and nourish your relationships. We picked the date of your bar mitzvah today based solely on its proximity to your birthday. We knew nothing about your portion, we just knew that it was called Shoftim. At the last Simchat Torah before the pandemic, as we stood under the unrolled Torah in celebration, the rabbis came over and told you you were standing under a very important portion of the Torah. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Years later, when we finally cracked open that portion and read the pages, we looked at the words and gasped, and we saw those same words. Justice, justice shall you pursue. It was besheret, or meant to be. Andy, may you always pursue justice and pursue Judaism. I love you.
All right. We told you that this is the section of the service where you just sort of have to take all the accolades and just, check out the room and realize that you have made it so far, and we knew you could. So we have, though, a certificate to make sure that you remember this day. Not that I think you're going to forget it, but indeed, we have this to say that today, Andrew Delston Byron did become a bar mitzvah. We also hope, and we know, that your Jewish journey will not stop here and that it will continue on. And we hope that one of the places it will go will be to the land of Israel, potentially even with some of your classmates who are here today. And so we have a little gift certificate from us and from the Union for Reform Judaism to get you here. And then we have this little gift for you also on behalf of the congregation. We hope that you use it for all of your simchas in the years to come. So, placing these here for now. You're welcome. Your mom mentioned this word besheret, and I think besheret is really such a perfect word for this day and for having your family here. When you all joined Temple Israel, your mom said, gosh, that it would be so great if Andy could have this particular bar mitzvah date. And weirdly, because we have a bar or bat mitzvah pretty much every weekend this year, except this one, because it was truly bashir that this was meant to be the day that you would become bar mitzvah here at Temple Israel. But I have to tell you that already at your time at Temple Israel, your family has broken a pretty important rule, but it's one that I think was meant to be broken. You see, Rabbi Michael and I have this thing that we say to parents before they give their blessing on the bima. And the rule is always, you're not allowed to say the word diaper. Because far too many parents, they get up and they're so emotional and they're like, oh, I remember with your little tushy and you were running around in the diaper. And sorry for all the 13-year-olds. I know, now I broke the rule. It's very embarrassing to have your parents say diaper on the bima, but not for you. And I think that actually there is kind of a deeper meaning there, because this project that you took on, this passion of yours, the fact that it has to do with diapers, quite honestly, a lot of people your age might feel like that was a little bit uncomfortable. Not every 13-year-old is comfortable being able to do something that has to do with diapers. But there's something about you that is just able to look at every problem and recognize the very seriousness of it. And what you taught us today about why the diaper bank is so important and why this is your passion was truly something that I never thought of before. I never thought of just how important it is and sort of all the dominoes that can begin to fall if a family is not able to provide for diapers for their family. And so you taught us that this morning, because at 13, you understand that some things are very serious even if they have the word diaper in them. So I hope that for the rest of your life, you will always recognize that there's really nothing embarrassing out there and that isn't worth bringing up if it means pursuing the cause of justice. So thank you really for teaching us something new. Thank you for the cookies. They were amazing. I apologize, Rabbi Michael, I did not share them with you. I ate them, but they were really, really good. And it's been such a pleasure getting to know you, and we can't wait to continue learning with you in the years ahead.
Few things. Rabbi Amy,
I
I'm
ate the
sorry I
cookies.
did not share the chocolate frog with you. That Annie's family gave. It was delicious. Thank you so much. We're even. Second thing. Charlie, you're next. Stay on deck. Okay. Next thing, third. I would like to ask, I know that there are a lot of people who are in Charlie's bar mitzvah, sorry, in Andy's, I just said Charlie, in Andy's bar mitzvah class. Can I ask you just for a moment if you would please stand up? Now, I know there are a lot of people here who are not in Andy's bar mitzvah class, but who are about his age or maybe a little bit younger. I'd like to ask all of them to stand up. If they can. Thank you. Thank you. Do you see them?
Yeah.
Do you guys see him? Will you give him a wave? This is totally real. This is really happening right now. Thank you guys so much. Please take a seat. This is real. You really did this. You took the time. Your classmates are here. Their siblings are too. The babies are running around, thank God. We talked about sorcery. We talked about magic. And we talked about justice. And until this morning, it was very, very difficult for me because I was studying in a very ancient way. I couldn't understand the connection. What's the connection between, why would you have all of these, quite frankly, horrifying Bronze Age rules in the same Torah portion as something so modern and so profound, something that we hold so closely, that your mom spoke about? And I think that they're trying to juxtapose the fact that the world is not a perfect place, and that's what God gave us. And that we have a role to be like God, who created the world. Okay, we're just people, but we can make a difference. And we have an obligation as we become B'nai Mitzvah, as we become conscious, as we become aware of what's going on in the world, like you are, that a parent who doesn't have the ability to buy diapers for their children doesn't feel like they don't have the ability to buy diapers for their children. They feel like they can't take care of their children and are not good parents. And what you did was you fixed that just a little bit. And you recognize that even diapers belong on the bima. Sometimes we put very nice flowers up for celebration. It's very nice. But human dignity is a much more important message. And to not live according to that understanding, I think the rabbis are saying, is like idol worship. And I think that's why they're in the same Torah portion. And I thank you for teaching me that. It was really awesome talking about wizardry. But it was also powerful to think about the world of deception and distraction that we live in, and to realize on a day like today that there are people out there like you that are willing to make this world a better place. Mazel tov.
So we'll ask you now if you will to turn around and we'll face the ark to offer you one final blessing. May God bless you and keep you.
May God's light shine upon you and guide you as you go on your way.
May God's countenance be lifted over you. May it be granted with wholeness and with peace. So we're going to ask Charlie if you will help us dress our extremely large Torah. Perfect. You got it. And then we'll ask everyone to please rise as we return our Torah to the ark.
It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom.
And we'll continue now with the Aleinu on the bottom of page 282.
Aleinu l'shabech l'adon hakol, latet gedula l'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'arzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, וגורלנו ככל המונה, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
So as we're here today honoring this simcha, this moment of joy, so too we're thinking of those members of Andy's family, his loved ones who couldn't be here with us today, who have passed on, and we're remembering them at this time. We're thinking of Bertha Melgoza, of Ken Baker, Irma Baker, Walter Baker, Ethel Delston, Vorn Delston, Peg Lottis, Philip Byron Sr., Margaret Byron, Robert Gill, and Margaret Gill. So with those names and the names that we keep in our hearts, we join now together on page 294 for the words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitzgadal v'yitzkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divrach cheruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayachon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'emru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mavarach Le'alam Omei Amaya. Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh. V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei Dekudisha Borichu. Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbachata V'nechamata Da'amiran Ba'ama V'emru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah Min Shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'emru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'emru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And we say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom
glad that each of you could join us here today. A few last words and blessings before we send you on your way to enjoy Shabbat. First, thank you to Hashemish for your beautiful music here today. And following our service, Andy and his family are inviting you to a festive Kiddush in his honor. That means food and drink. So in order to be able to enjoy that, we have to say some blessings. So once again, we are going to invite Charlie and Eleanor and Trixie to come on up, and they are going to be using this Kiddush cup that belonged to their grandfather, who Andy's Hebrew name is after. You guys are like pros at this, but I'm going to give you this anyway, just in case you want to. Do you want to hold it? Sure. All right. Does one of you guys want to hold the cup? Awesome. Perfect.
Most important part.
You're bar mitzvah. You get to
L'chaim.
do that. All right. Girls, we unwrap the bread.
Magic. Sorcery.
Amen. All right, take a little bite. Just one piece. Yes, that's it. Oh, he's ready. See, that's how we know you're next in line. Mazel tov. So we are going to invite Andy and his cousins and his brother to lead you guys out the door to our kiddush. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I'm going to take it.